Question number 3. Boy, this is a good one. How old is the earth? Now, if you're talking to a scientist, the scientist says the earth is 4.5 billion years old. A scientist, a woman by the name of Nola Taylor Reid, at space.com writes the following: by dating the rocks in the Earth's ever-changing crust, as well as the rocks in Earth's neighbors, such as the moon, and visiting meteorites, scientists have calculated the Earth is 4.54 billion years old. Now here's what I like, the little caveat at the end: with an error range of 50 million years. Isn't that amazing? You know, give 50, take 50, million, billion, whatever. It's unbelievable. Now, if you're talking to a Christian, a Bible-believing Christian, what do they say? The earth is somewhere between 6 and, at the most, 10,000 years. Now, guys, I want you to go home tonight, and I want you to write 5.4 billion, write that in its entirety, and then under it, write 6,000. Big difference. Big difference, isn't it? Scientists look at us and they think, y'all are crazy. You think this earth is just that young? 6,000 years is all that we've been here? Have you never looked at the earth? Have you never been to a museum? Have you never studied science? You see, they think we're just foolish. And folks, the reality is this: there are many evidences that you and I live on a young, in fact, a very young earth. Now, what we're about to do is we're about to prove that. And we're going to show you 4 lines of evidences that we live on a very young earth. The first one involves the genealogy of Luke chapter 3. In the last several verses of Luke 3, we have a genealogy of Jesus Christ. And that genealogy starts at Jesus and goes all the way back to, guess who? Adam. Wow. Jesus all the way back to Adam. Now, folks, once we have that genealogy in hand, all we have to do is add 2,000 years to it, because we're 2,000 years removed from who? From Jesus Christ, right? Now, here's something interesting. There are 75 names on that list. Yes, I counted them. 75 names from Jesus to Adam. 75 names. Now, let's do some calculations. Are you ready? Let's assume for a moment that one generation is 1,000 years. The reason I say that is because when man was first created, he lived a long time, didn't he? The oldest man, 969 years. So let's just say one genealogy is what? 1,000 years. 1,000 times 75 is what? 75,000. Plus 2,000 to bring us from Jesus to now, 77,000 years. Now that's if man lives 1,000 years in each generation. That ain't happening now, is it? How many of you are going to live 1,000 years? Some of you may look like it. But how many of you are going to live 1,000 years? None of us are. The reality is, a generation is more around, 100 years. So let's use 100 years. 75 times 100 is what? 7,500 plus 2,000, 9,500 years. From us back to who? Adam. Okay? But the reality is, a generation's really not even 100 years. Generation is really about 8,000 years. So if you do the math and add the 2,000 years, from us back to Adam is about 8,000 years. Folks, that's a young earth, isn't it? You see, Adam was created at the beginning of the creation. That's a young earth. Now let's assume that there may have been some generations that are skipped in that genealogy, a few of them. We don't have every one of them. We're still only up to about what? 10,000 years max. That's the age of the earth, if you believe the Bible, if you believe the genealogy of Luke chapter 3. But people need more evidence, don't they? So let's look at the second line of argumentation. It's referred to as human population statistics. Now, evolution says that man has been on the earth somewhere between 2 and 3 million years. That's not very long in comparison to 4.5 billion years. We're relatively newcomers to the earth, aren't we? But let's assume that man has only been on the earth for 1 million years. Not 2 or 3 million, just 1 million years. Folks, if that's the case, given the population growth rate on the earth at this present time, there ought to be 10 to the 2,000 power number of people on the earth. Folks, that's 10 with 2,000 zeros on the end. Is that how many people are on the earth right now? Not even close. Watch this. There are less than 10 to the 10th power of people on the earth. There are less than 10 to the 8th power of people on the earth. Folks, there's only about 7.6 billion people on the earth today. If evolution were right, and man's been on the planet for 1 million years, there ought to be 10 to the 2,000th power of people on the earth today, according to population statistics. Now watch this next point. The whole universe. Got that? The whole universe can only hold 10 to the 82nd power number of people. That's if everybody is sandwiched in as a sardine and is only, sorry Tim, 3 feet tall. So 2 Tims. Can you imagine that? You see, the universe, not even the universe, will be able to take the population growth that ought to be here if evolution is true. On the other hand, if we live on a young earth, guess what? We ought to have about 7.6 billion people on the earth today. You see, we live on a young earth, folks, not an old earth. Now what about this one? Dinosaurs and man. Evolution says this. Evolution says that the dinosaurs died, became extinct 65 million years ago. Now remember, man has only been on the earth how long? 2 to 3 million years. So the dinosaurs died 65 million years ago. A long, long time passes, and finally, man evolves from something. But guess what he never did, they say? Man never coexisted with the dinosaurs. Isn't that the contention of the evolutionist? Folks, you want to know the reason they put up all these exhibits with dinosaurs? Is an attempt to prove what? Evolution. Those dinosaurs lived millions and millions and millions of years long before man ever got here. That is a fabricated lie. Man and dinosaurs have existed together. And one of the best proofs are found in carvings, pictographs, and petroglyphs throughout the entirety of the world. I'm only going to give you 3 examples. One of them is a place called Angkor, Cambodia. Deep in the woods in Angkor, there is a temple that is built there, a temple that is made out of stone. And in those stones, there are carvings that can be found. And one of the carvings is the one you see on the overhead. And that is the carving of a what? Stegosaurus. Now, folks, how in the world did the Indians who lived way back there in Cambodia know what a stegosaurus looks like if they've never seen one? How could they draw one? How could they engrave one into a wall in perfect proportion if they've never seen one? The reality is they did see them. We can come into the United States. There are numerous natural bridges that exist, bridges of stone. One of them is found right here. It's called the Kachinka Bridge. It's in Utah. If you go down into that bridge, go underneath it, and you look up on the rock there, guess what you see? You see two carvings. One of them is a human being. And the other one is a dinosaur. Guess what kind? A brontosaurus. You know, the big one with the long, long head and the long, long tail and the big fat body? Yeah, the nice one. Yeah, the nice one that eats leaves and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, guys, it's in perfect proportion. The tail, the neck, the body, perfect proportion to guess what? To exactly what we know the brontosaurus looked like. Now, what's interesting is 50 miles from this natural bridge, guess what they found? They have found brontosaurus fossil remains. Isn't that something? You see, those Indians who made those pictures saw those creatures and drew those pictures to perfection. In the Grand Canyon itself, there is a picture of what they refer to as an ibex, I-B-E-X. We might refer to it as a what? Tyrannosaurus Rex. The mean one, yeah, this is the flesh eater right here. And guys, it's in perfect proportion to what a dinosaur looks like. Small arms in the front, large feet on the back, stands erect, a large neck with a large tail that guess what it does? Provides balance for the creature. You tell me where the Indians that drew that saw a dinosaur. Folks, they had to have seen. How could they draw such a thing? It's not just a figment of the imagination. Now, the thing about it is this. This is just three pieces of the evidence. These exist all over the world. There are drawings found in many places, done by Indians and others, of dinosaurs to perfect proportions. How did they know what all of these different dinosaurs looked like? And guess what? Sometimes right beside them are rhinoceroses and elephants and other creatures. Folks, man and dinosaurs have coexisted together. The evidence is out there. The problem is the media and the scientific community doesn't want us to know about it. But it's for real. One more evidence. The decay of the magnetic field. There is a magnetic field that encircles the entirety of the earth. Now, what's interesting about it is this. Every 1,100 years, the magnetic field of the earth decays 50%. Now, what that means is this. The further we go back in time, the stronger the magnetic field. So let's do something. Let's go back 30,000 years, and we will double the magnetic field every 1,100 years. By the time you get back 30,000 years, you've got a magnetic field that is as strong as what they refer to as a neutron star. Now, you see, we're not scientists. We don't even know what that means, do we? And folks, what that means is this. If there was that much of a magnetic field encircling the earth would have been far, far, far too hot to have produced any life whatsoever on the planet. Now, that's just 30,000 years back. What if we kept doubling that every 1,100 years, all the way back 3 million years. Another point is this. If that magnetic field was there at 30,000 years, that strong as a neutron star, guess what? It would have shaken and rattled the very foundations of the earth itself. In fact, the earth could have even existed at that particular time. And guess what? The scientists have to agree. They have to agree that there is a decay rate that is transpiring in the magnetic field on the earth. They have to agree to that. That's part of science. You can go out there and check the figures. And if we take it back far enough, folks, the earth would absolutely be destroyed by its own magnetic field. But if we've got a young earth, 6,000 years, the change in the magnetic field's only occurred, what? About 4 or 5 times over the course of the last 6,000 years. And thus we'd have the magnetic field that's supposed to exist today. And whatever existed 6,000 years ago, guess what? Wouldn't have harmed the earth whatsoever. 4 evidences of a young earth. Now, if you want more evidences, you go to Apologetics Press. They've got an article there. 21 evidences of a young earth. I thought you might want to get out on time, so I just chose 4 of them.